wrestling is a really weird world unto itself. Half-dressed men with screaming 50,000 plus crowds, and all of these odd things happening. You definitely aren't going to get 15 to 20,000 people cheering something as basic as a list and doing it every week. And we just made our own list. Given how crazy the world of pro wrestling is, there are a lot of crazy facts that sound like they are totally made up. But you'll only be stunned when you realize they're real. So here are some of the most mind-blowing wrestling facts that may sound like they're made up, but they're not. It's Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin. Jump into the comments below with weird wrestling facts you remember. Number 1. All Evolution members have victories at WrestleMania against The Rock, but defeats against The Undertaker. Evolution as a faction lasted only 2 years with some of the biggest names in the business and Triple H, Nature Boy Ric Flair, Batista, and Randy Orton, which is still a shorter run as a faction, though, than Roman Reigns' entire run as the undisputed Universal Champion. But that isn't what we're really talking about. Evolution is tightly considered one of the greatest factions in WWE history, despite their short tenure together, but the reason for that is the impact they had and the stars they created in Batista and Randy Orton. Did you know that they all have wins over The Rock at WrestleMania? It wasn't exactly a conventional circumstance. While Triple H defeated The Rock in the dreaded McMahon in every corner main event of WrestleMania 2000, the remaining members, Ric Flair, Batista, and Orton, defeated the duo of The Rock and Mick Foley at WrestleMania 20, sending the Great One away for another 7 years. But none of them could defeat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Triple H lost a whopping 3 times to The Taker at WrestleMania, first at 17, then back-to-back defeats at 27 and 28. Ric Flair faced The Undertaker at WrestleMania 18 and suffered a similar fate, while Orton could not slither his snaky ways past him 3 years later at WrestleMania 21. Batista was another formidable opponent for The Taker at WrestleMania 23, but ended up losing the World Heavyweight title to him, and the Phenom had an absolute banger of a match. Overall, Evolution makes up for 6 out of the 21 wins, 28.5% of The Undertaker's legendary WrestleMania streak. Number 2. The man in Evolution with the most recent match before Survivor Series War Games. Sticking with Evolution, Randy Orton returned at Survivor Series War Games 2023 after 18 months away from action due to a major back injury. Triple H revealed that he can never wrestle again after dealing with heart issues, while Batista had a fitting farewell to professional wrestling against the game at WrestleMania 35 in 2019, fully putting his career behind him and moving ahead in Hollywood. The Nature Boy Ric Flair, on the other hand, is a bit of a madman, as you might know. In the summer of 2022, a few months after Orton's injury, he held a grand event called Ric Flair's Last Match. In the event, he would team up with his son-in-law Andrade to face Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett in Nashville, Tennessee. Given that the event happened on July 31st, 2022, while Orton was out of action from May, means that Ric Flair was the last member of Evolution to wrestle until Survivor Series War Games, as pointed out by a Twitter user, Dr_X. Yes, we're still calling it Twitter. Oh, and Ric Flair was 73 when he had his last match. Woo! Number 3. Molly Holly's great sacrifice to get the women on the WrestleMania 20 card. Molly Holly was one of those women who was truly ahead of her time. But apart from her in-ring and on-screen contributions, it was a selfless act that she did that gives her a spot on this list and maybe makes her Hall of Fame worthy, an honor she already has. It was at WrestleMania 20 in 2004, Molly Holly was told that there was no room for a women's championship match on the big show at Madison Square Garden. Instead, WWE opted to book a Playboy evening gown women's tag team match. Whatever that means to some fans of women's wrestling, I'm not exactly sure. It would feature Tori Wilson and Sable against Stacy Keibler and Miss Jackie. Molly revealed on Chris Hero's Shoot Conversations podcast that desperate times called for desperate measures, and she pitched the idea of a women's title match where she would lose to the champion Victoria and get her head shaved live on pay-per-view. It was approved, but what may have been a bit scary for her was the fact that she walked into a room of people, including WWE boss Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and writers Brian Gerwitz and Ed Koskey. While the evening gown whatever match lasted 2.5 minutes, the women's title match went for, wait for it, just 5 freaking minutes. Make sure you're grateful to see such a high-quality women's wrestling caliber that it has been reached to today, because 20 years ago, Molly Holly got the ball rolling. Plus, it's one of the most underrated WrestleMania matches of all time. Number 4, Kelly Kelly successfully defends the World Heavyweight Championship? Wait. How could Kelly Kelly defend the world title? It's only held by men in WWE. During Edge's World Heavyweight title feud against Dolph Ziggler in February of 2011, he was booked in a match where he teamed up with the popular Kelly Kelly to face Ziggler, Michelle McCool, and Layla, or Laycool, in a 2-on-3 handicap match. And the catch? The World Heavyweight title was on the line. Kelly Kelly ended up picking up the win for her and Edge thanks to the spear on Layla, and successfully defended the title for Edge to a huge ovation. Yes, it was a big ovation, but I'm still asking how? Number 5, Booker T nor Jeff Hardy has a single win at SummerSlam. Booker T and Jeff Hardy are both bona fide legends of the business, and both men winning multiple world titles throughout their careers. Truly, some of the all-time greats. In WWE, both of their peaks happened in the mid to late 2000s, while Hardy also had appearances with his brother Matt. Both men have 11 SummerSlam appearances between them and 0 wins. Booker T has been 0-5 at SummerSlam, while Hardy's record is slightly worse at 0-6. It even took Jeff Hardy until 2017 to get his first WrestleMania win, and his record there is just a measly 1-5, the same as Booker T. Number 6, James Ellsworth is the only man to have 3 consecutive wins over AJ Styles in WWE. James Ellsworth's 2016 run still feels like a bit of a fever dream in retrospect. He came in as a glorified jobber who simply caught everyone's eye on the beating end of Braun Strowman, utilized for just a few seconds he had on the mic to gain a lot of traction, leading to WWE to actually sign him to a contract. They even made the right decision of putting him on SmackDown Live, the hottest show in wrestling, and before he became a team mascot for Survivor Series, he helped eliminate Braun Strowman, and he got into a feud with WWE Champion AJ Styles. Yes, he was over. But that's not even the craziest part. In their 4 matches between each other, James Ellsworth won 3 consecutive times against him, making him the only star to do that against the Phenomenal One. Those wins didn't come without their shenanigans and interferences from main event stars like Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, but when they finally faced for the 4th time, Styles squashed him with ease. It's crazy to think that James Ellsworth has more wins over AJ Styles than even John Cena? Can you see it? Can you even see it? Number 7, AJ Styles' second reign as WWE Champion was longer than all of Edge's world title reigns combined. AJ Styles' feud with James Ellsworth was during his first WWE title run, but he truly took himself to Hall of Fame status during his incredible second run as WWE Champion. With a title reign that exceeded just over a year, he became one of the few WWE superstars to hold a world championship for 1 consecutive calendar year, joining Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund, Pedro Morales, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, John Cena, and CM Punk. Edge, on the other hand, has a whopping 11 reigns as world champion, 7 of which came with the World Heavyweight title, but not many knowing that he had hardly had any long championship reigns at all. In fact, the only world title reign of his that crossed 100 days, meaning that he made a legendary career out of just maybe being a transitional champion. Yeah, we're not saying that, but maybe some of these people with spreadsheets are trying to put that out there. It might surprise you to learn that 11 of those world title reigns only amount to 320 days. 51 less days than Styles' second reign as WWE Champion. Yes, we are crunching the numbers. Number 8. Batista is older than Triple H? When it was time for Batista to truly ascend to the top of the card in 2005, it was a vision of him possibly becoming the face of WWE. And the man who had to do that job to help him get there was on his level, and it was Triple H, who you'd think would be older than him. At the time, it always seemed like Batista was a younger star for two reasons. One, he'd only signed with WWE just 5 years earlier, and two, Triple H had already established himself as a multi-time world champion at the infamous Reign of Terror. Yes, it was definitely a passing of the torch match at WrestleMania 21, one that was one of those rare occasions where the superstar getting the torch was older than the one passing it to them. Well, at least slightly older anyway. Batista is only 6 months older and 9 days than Triple H, which isn't much, but still surprising considering the circumstances. Number 9. MJF has more matches overall than Brock Lesnar has in his entire career. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, one of the top stars in AEW, has just turned 6 years old when Brock Lesnar made his main roster debut in WWE in 2002. But in the 21 years since then, he has gone on to have far more matches than Brock has had in his entire career. Of course, this can all be explained by the fact that Brock Lesnar's first full-time run in WWE only lasted just about 2 years, while 11 years since he returned to WWE saw him exclusively in premium live events and sporadic TV appearances. To put the figures into perspective, you need to understand that MJF began his career in early 2015 on the independent circuit, right before Brock Lesnar headlined WrestleMania 31 against Roman Reigns. To get down to the numbers, courtesy of CageMatch.net, MJF has wrestled a total of 508 matches versus Brock's 434 recorded matches. But this includes all of his OVW developmental stages, a lot of house shows, building up to his main event roster debut in 2002. If you were to take out those house shows, Brock Lesnar's matches drop down to just 334, and it doesn't seem all too unfair to look at it from that perspective, given that a good chunk of those matches were squashes, brother. But then again, those are two different types of beasts. You aren't going to see many wrestlers who wouldn't want that sweet Brock Lesnar schedule. It also goes to show what a workhorse MJF has been, because of that 508 equates to a match every 6 days since February of 2015. If you really want to spread them out that way. Number 10. Heath Slater has pinfalls and victories against 4 former future world champions. Heath seems like the guy who's going to get a cult following in the years to come. He needs it. He has kids to support. He wasn't the type of wrestler who was meant to break a certain ceiling in the WWE, and all of that talent still meant something since his debut. And he's pulled off some absurd wins against top stars. The first instance was in 2010, when as a rookie in the early version of NXT, he was mentored by Christian. He went up against Chris Jericho, who was mentoring Wade Barrett, and pulled off the biggest upset in NXT history at the time by pinning Y2J. 13 years on, it's still probably one of those big upsets in NXT. His next target was Edge, who he defeated clean by countout on August 16th's episode of Raw in the same year. On the funny side note, Heath Slater revealed that Johnny Laurinaitis told him that Vince McMahon ordered him to change his appearance because he looked, quote, too similar to Edge. He's a red-haired Edge. Okay. Just a couple weeks later, he was involved in a 5-on-5 elimination match teaming up with The Nexus against Cena, Randy Orton, Jericho, Edge, and Sheamus. He pinned Sheamus in this instance, and although he got eliminated, his team picked up the win against 5 former world champions. In the 4th such incident, he faced then Money in the Bank holder Seth Rollins in a beat-the-clock challenge. Rollins had to defeat Slater in 15 minutes, and thanks to Dean Ambrose's distraction, he pinned Seth in just about 4 minutes and 7 seconds. It's even funnier when you consider that some of his losses were against El Torito, Lita, and a 69-year-old Big Van Vader. What time is it? It's Heath Slater time. What are some crazy wrestling facts that you remember? Let us know in those comments below. Do you want us to make more crazy wrestling fact videos like this? Let us know in those comments below.